Hey everyone. Today I'm handing you a step-by-step solution for an autonomous AI agent that can source insights from 90% of websites out there completely autonomously. This AI agent can bypass most website scraping protections such as captchas, JavaScript challenges, antibot systems, and other website firewalls. It runs a waterfall approach with different website scrapers. If one fails, the next kicks in until something runs successfully. It bypasses the toughest website blocks on websites such as Similarweb, G2, Crunchbase, and Builtwith. And it provides live insights from these websites that are difficult to source straight into your other AI agent systems, such as an AI BDR agent that can auto-generate hyper-personalized email sequences based on that research. If you don't know me, my name is Betty. Over the past few years, I've booked over 2,000 sales accepted meetings and have generated over $20 million in qualified pipeline value. I've sent millions of AI personalized cold emails, and I've built more than 50 AI agent systems in production that handle this work for me every day, enabling me to focus on things that only I can do and AI cannot touch just yet. I'm not claiming to be the ultimate expert here. I'm just sharing the playbook I wish existed when I started. So hopefully this all provides value to you. Let me know what else you want to see in the comments. Now, let's dive right in. So in today's video, I will show you a few advanced tactics for how you can equip your AI agent with the right capabilities to scrape almost any websites on the internet. And I brought you a few examples here. In my open tabs, you see Similarweb, Builtwith, G2, and Crunchbase. We're going to scrape these websites using our AI agent. These are websites that are notoriously difficult to scrape because of their anti-website scraping tactics and mechanisms that they employ. It's difficult to bypass their captcha or other kinds of challenges, such as JavaScript challenges and whatnot. First, I'm going to show you the end result that we are aiming for. So why do we care about scraping these websites? If you look at email touch 2, that my agent has prepared, we are referencing Similarweb and that Loom had 16 million website visits last month. And we asked this poke the bear question from the prospect: if we could help you turn 5% more website visitors into sales qualified leads using AI agents, would you be interested in a chat? So this is the value track that we wanted to include in our cold email, because we are constantly A/B testing and trying to find the best offer angle for our go-to-market. And so for the agent to be able to generate a personalized section like this, it's going to have to be able to scrape Similarweb and identify that Loom had 60 million website visits last month, or any relevant insight that we want the agent to use. Now, in email touch 3, we reference their competitors. So we say something like, we saw that Loom competes with Vidyard and Zeit. How's your lead conversion compared to them? If you could convert inbound leads faster than your competitors using AI, would you be open to a quick chat? So that's our value proposition here. If you use our services, we build you AI agents, you'll be able to convert your website visitors and your inbound leads faster than your competitors, assuming that those leads will visit your competitors' websites as well, because they're on the market for a similar solution to your product. Now, we will zoom into the Sales Strategist, and let's look at the scraping tool that's responsible for bypassing these scraping protections. But before that, I wanted to put everything into perspective, especially if you haven't seen my other videos, which you can find in the description. I'm going to link to that. We are now looking at a multi-agent system that consists of an AI BDR and a Sales Strategist. And today we're zooming into this part here. So after we enriched our contact, we want to find a bunch of details about them and their company. And part of that is going to be visiting Similarweb to understand their website traffic and website engagement, visit Builtwith to understand the technologies and the tech stack that they are using, G2 to source insights about their competitors, simply scraping the top 10 alternatives and competitors from G2, and then visit Crunchbase and scrape its content to understand its growth insights, predictions, anything around acquisition and notable events, and so on and so forth. So when we go back to our AI BDR and we look at our final sequence, we'll notice that this sequence was generated by this Craft Killer Message Sequence tool based on the in-depth research that our sales strategist has prepared about Loom and Nick Feeney, in this case, throughout these 17 different steps here. And you will notice that in the final report, we have a bunch of data about these Now let's look at the sales strategist. I'll zoom into this sub-agent, which is an agent in itself as well. It's just connected to the parent agent. So when the parent agent delegates to the sub-agent, it's going to trigger this agent with this message template. And then based on its core instructions, this agent is going to go through its standard operating procedure step by step. Again, in my other videos, we've looked at these instructions in detail and we looked at the different tools. But you will notice if you compare my previous videos with this one that I've changed these steps here. So from 5 to 8, we scrape G2, Crunchbase, Similarweb, and Builtwith, executing a Google search in order to find information about the prospect company's competitors on G2. I give it an example URL, such as g2.com/products/ the given company name as a variable, competitors and alternatives. This is just an example for the agent, because when it uses this Google search tool, it's going to have a bunch of different results, and I want the agent to select only one website from those results and then scrape that website. We're going to do something very similar with Crunchbase. So I asked the agent to find the prospect company on Crunchbase to understand recent news, notable events, monthly web visits. Again, I provide an example URL for the agent. We repeat it with Similarweb as well, and then finally with Builtwith. The only trick with Builtwith is that we're not going to use a Google search here, because if you check in Google, you'll find that you are not going to be able to find this type of URL in Google. So you will need to access this website directly, which is builtwith.com/the prospect company website, because Google for some reason is not giving you this search result. Now let's look at the actual website scrapes. Let's navigate to the tools tabs and let's start from the first Google search. It's using the term Loom competitors on G2, and it found a bunch of websites that it could scrape. But then, based on my instructions, it actually selected this G2 site, so products/Atlassian Loom competitors alternatives, and it successfully returned the top 10 competitors of Loom. Now let's open this tool in another tab and let's look at the different inputs, as well as let's run this tool to see how the waterfall style website scraping is implemented. The agent is going to fill out the objective of the website scraping, and it's going to come from the agent instructions that we just looked at. So in this case, the agent has concluded that it has to identify Loom's main competitors and understand how they position themselves against Loom. Maybe we could have refined our agent instruction here, because as we saw down the line in our cold email, we actually don't really care about how the competitors position themselves against Loom. We mostly care about the competitor names, right? So in this case, a competitor list is enough for us. The agent will also input the website URL. So this is going to be the website URL that the agent is going to scrape, the date of publication, if it's relevant, and finally the main domain of the prospect company. This is interesting because I include this main domain for the agent to be able to reason for whether it is scraping the right website for the right insights. In many cases, the prospect company doesn't have a unique name. Loom is obviously one of the most well-known instant video recording products out there. So chances are, if we use Loom, it's going to identify and use the right company. But in smaller companies' cases, we might want to include a unique ID for the agent to be able to reason for whether it really is scraping the right content. And here below, we have an Appify tools tab. It's a built-in website scrape using Relevance AI's Appify website scraping model. We could also select Browserless, and here below we are actually doing that. So we use Browserless as the scraper model, and we have a fallback here. So if this step fails, then it's going to return no content. The same is true for the Appify scraper. If it fails, it's going to return no content, because in many cases, these website scrapers fail not because of the website scraping protection that's employed on the website. So once these two scrapers ran, we have an LLM step that's a basic O3 mini reasoning step that's going to reason for whether these scrapers have returned relevant information or not. And it's going to categorize this into either it wasn't possible to scrape the website or it was possible to scrape the website. And based on the outcome of this step here, we're going to run a third website scrape, which is with ZenRows. So here we're hitting ZenRows API and we've added this condition to run. Now I could remove this, but if you don't have this condition here, then you'll just click add condition to run and you select the previous output. In this case, it's the evaluate website scrape answer. And if it equals to it wasn't possible to scrape a website, then we run the ZenRows scrape. And you'll notice that we are asking for the usage of a premium proxy. It's going to use a US-based proxy, and it's also going to use JavaScript rendering. So these are two premium features on ZenRows that you get in the basic package that's going to be able to bypass most of these website scraping protections. So as you notice, it's a very basic API call. You could get Relevance AI to build this API call step for you, or you can just reach out to me and I can share this with you. It takes 2 minutes to recreate this. And we're passing the website URL into the URL param, as well as we're referencing our API key with secrets.chains_ZenRows. Let me quickly show you how you can configure your ZenRows API key. It's very easy. You just navigate to apps and integrations, and under custom keys, you add a new custom key and then you name it whatever you want to call it. I called it just simply ZenRows, and Relevance AI adds this chains underscore as a prefix. And so later in your AI tools and AI agents, you're going to be able to reference this API key by calling secrets.chains_ZenRows. Now let's run this tool to see how it works. When the tool run finished, if we scroll up, we'll see that it tried to scrape with Appify and it returned, please enable JS and disable any ad blocker. It was potentially a message from G2 itself. So in this case, this tool step hasn't failed. So it didn't have to use this fallback value, but it's good that we have here because in many cases it's going to fail. And then it also tried to scrape with Browserless. It didn't return anything, no message, no output. It's just an empty object. And in our evaluation, the AI has categorized these two outputs into it wasn't possible to scrape the website, and then it outputted that. And so this ZenRows tool step eventually had to run because it only runs if it wasn't possible to scrape the website, and it returned the actual website content in a markdown format. It returns a markdown because we specified it here. It could return HTML as well or other formats. And then finally, with all these images, nice. Still scrolling, okay. And finally, we employ an LLM step here with a basic GPT to summarize the website scrape. We're passing all three website scrape results, including Appify, Browserless, and ZenRows. Obviously, Appify and Browserless will be empty, and it's going to summarize using Gemini 2.0 Flash. Now, if we want to change how the LLM summarizes the website, we can do that here under the guidelines. For example, if we want to change the length of the website summary, or if we want the AI to focus on something specifically, then we can input those here. Potentially, we could pass a new variable here that comes from the tool input that's being filled by the agent, or we could also simply hard code that. So for example, if you have different email campaigns that you're running and you have different requirements for website scraping for those campaigns, then you can include a variable here that you either make into the agent settings like this, and then now you can find it at the top, or you don't do that, and that's going to mean that the agent will have to fill this out similar to how it fills out the prospect company domain or the date of publication and so on and so forth. This was just an example here. If we go back to our agent run and we zoom out, so this was a G2 website scrape, we do the same for Crunchbase, and the agent selects the best Crunchbase website based on our instruction, and then it is able to scrape that website as well. So we can find most details here with all the sources and stuff. And then it scrapes the Similarweb Loom page. It finds a bunch of Similarweb websites, and then it's going to select one, which in this case is similarweb.com/website/loom.com. And then it's going to scrape that. We see the global rank, the total visits, month over month changed, and a bunch of other details as well that we can then later reference in our cold emails. And finally, it also scrapes Builtwith. As we saw, we instructed the agent to construct this URL from scratch. So it's going to construct as builtwith.com/the prospect company website. And it's going to scrape that website directly. So it's not using a Google search. It's simply scraping that website. And it found the 166 technologies on loom.com. And I think it hasn't included all of them. We could change the agent prompt to include all details here. So I would then go into the agent settings and change the objective of the scraping there. So when the agent runs this tool, it's going to include that instruction in the objective input of this tool that goes into the final LLM step that summarizes the website scrape. All right, so that's it for today. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to reach out. Go watch my previous videos, leave a comment, or reach out to me via LinkedIn or email. I read every single comment. Let me know what you would like to see next. I'm posting these videos on a weekly basis. Ciao.